coffee and donuts for us for our refreshments. And if y'all would like to come up and speak about what you do and where you're located, so that everyone here knows that we do have a lumber yard within Fairview.
Ethan, thanks for allowing us to participate in today's meeting, but I'm John Kilpatrick, and I'm with Nashville Lumber Company. We're located here in Fairview on Cumberland Drive. Our primary focus is the custom home builder, so if there's anything we could ever do, we'd love to help you. We'd not just custom, but that's kind of where our market has fallen. But let us know if there's anything we can do to help anyone.
To get started, we're going to go over kind of how our agenda is laid out for today. We have our introductions, regulatory documents that we follow, application requirements, pre-construction requirements, start of construction requirements, all of the different permits that may be needed within the construction process, and then project closeout. And then at 11:30, the last 30 minutes of this, we will have an IDT training for all who would like to participate with Co Douglas, who's our customer support representative from IDT, to walk through how to submit a project, where to find information on IDT, and any questions that you have. There will be a short question and answer session at the end of that. To get started, I am Ethan Greer. I'm the city planner for the city of Fairview. I work directly for our city manager, Mr. Tom Daugherty, who's sitting right back here in the crowd. Within our department, we have a consultant engineering firm, Griggs & Maloney. Will Owen is our consultant there, and within their consultancy, we have Mr. Kevin Chasteen, who is a consultant city planner, and Mr. Curtis Broadbent, who is our consultant city engineer. We share Miss Maria Bruce, our community service administrator, with our public works department. Our building inspector is Mr. Tom Ponder. He will be here shortly. He is out doing a couple inspections this morning. And then our plans review is completed currently by municipal inspection partners, Miss Lonnie Collins. Our regulatory documents that we review, all plans and everything that's submitted to our office, is this list. Our zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, design review manual, stormwater ordinance, municipal code, and all of the 2018 ICC codes. To find those documents, except for the ICC code, we have that on file in our office. If you utilize the Planning and Codes Department website and go down to all downloads at the bottom of the page, you can find planning and zoning forms, our fee schedule, our zoning ordinance. That zoning ordinance that is available online has been updated with all of the previous amendments to the zoning ordinance. That is a new addition to our website. And then our subdivision regulations and our stormwater ordinance. We're going to start out with all of our developer friends with application types. You're the folks who submit annexation, rezoning, conceptual plans, master development plans, residential development plans, commercial site development plans, and then we'll get into our construction folks with construction plans and variance requests. Application types that require a pre-application meeting are annexation, rezoning, conceptual plan, master development plan, commercial site development plan, and a residential development plan. Our schedule for our planning commission is available on our website as well. We operate on a 6-week schedule. And so if you look at, let's go with the July 24 Planning Commission meeting date. That initial project submittal is due on May 24th of this month. 1 week following that, you will have a staff meeting with applicant here at City Hall. The people who are at that meeting consist of myself, our city engineer, Water Authority of Dixon County, a member of the Planning Commission, which is the mayor, who also sits on the Board of Commissioners. So you have some input from a person who would vote on it either way, if it has to go all the way to the board or only to the Planning Commission. You receive comments back from our staff. They are called issues on IDT. We've asked for that to be changed. We're working on that, but we would like to call them comments. Corrections, items that we'd like to see. Comments come back 3 weeks after your first submission. You have 1 week to respond to those comments and resubmit to our office. And then we have 1 week of review to make sure that all of those comments were addressed properly. And if they were addressed properly, your item goes into the agenda for the meeting. If you would like to have a work session prior to a Planning Commission meeting, we have those dates listed. My only request is that if you are having a work session, your item is not on that night's Planning Commission meeting agenda. It would be on the following Planning Commission meeting. So if you want a work session, that is available. If you would like to come pick the brains of Planning Commission members, those are available for you. A few helpful documents that I think are super helpful. It's the first things that we look at whenever we get a submission into our office. If you go into resources on the City of Fairview page, down to city maps, it pulls you up to that home page there. And it has our GIS map where you can go in and see zonings of properties. And then it has our 2040 plan as a GIS map where you can find your exact parcel and then click on the PDF that shows the appropriate land use and appropriate zoning for that. It's very helpful whenever you're looking to find, hey, we want to rezone this property. I wonder what their initial opinion would be. Please utilize the map. You can garner pretty well what our initial opinion would be based off of the 2040 plan. To start out, our first application type is annexation. The required documents: a legal description of the property, copy of the current deed, and a listing of all adjacent property owners with their tax address, not the property address that's on there. When we send out notifications, it has to go to their address that they receive mail, not to the property address. A lot of properties around have people who live in Franklin or Brentwood, or owners that are LLCs that have a PO box in Nashville. And those are the addresses that we need, not the physical address of the property. To talk a little bit, the blue line across the bottom you'll see on several slides. I know it's small. We will have this available, this presentation printed out, available in our office, or I can send you a PDF of this at your request. Starts out with a pre-application meeting, and then you submit your annexation application. It goes through a 6-week staff review. If at the end of 6 weeks you have a completed application per our regulations, it would go to the Planning Commission for their recommendation, and then it goes to the Board of Commissioners for a first hearing. They set a public hearing date. Then subsequently, you would have a public hearing date and a second and final read for annexation. That whole process, if everything moves smoothly, takes 4 to 5 months. For those who are looking to annex into the city, this is a map of our urban growth boundary. The green on this map is the current municipal boundary of Fairview. The yellow is the current urban growth boundary. The pink is the current urban growth boundary to be removed upon adoption of the proposed Williamson County Growth Plan. The Williamson County Growth Plan is currently out to all the municipalities to be adopted. The Williamson County Coordinating Committee met on April 30th and voted on a map that they believe is sufficient for all cities to adopt. The blue area is the proposed urban growth boundary to be added upon the adoption of the Williamson County Growth Plan. This map is pretty necessary for you. There's an interlocal agreement that comes with this Williamson County Growth Plan where cities would not be able to annex outside of the urban growth boundary of the city. And so having a good reference, we're removing a little bit. The pink area up top borders Cheatham County and Davidson County, so you have a little bit off of Brush Creek, kind of CCC Road, if you're familiar with that area that is getting removed. And then we're adding a little bit more down into the 840 corridor. Rezoning, like annexation, has several requirements: legal description, copy of current deed, plat or certified survey, notarized letter granting authority. If you are not the owner of the property, you need authorization from the owner. That letter can be found on the homepage of IDT, and we'll have Co talk about that when we get there later this morning. And then again, the listing of all adjacent property owners with addresses. The blue line across the bottom walks you through the same process as annexation with pre-application meeting, rezoning application, staff review, planning commission, board of commissioner, first reading, public hearing, and then a second reading. To help find the addresses that we are searching for, the Williamson County Property Assessor website is the best place to find that. You can click and enter an address of a property. 7100 City Center Way is this location that you're at today, but the address that we would need to be able to send a notification to the city of Fairview is actually the P.O. box that's listed as where they receive their tax information. For a conceptual plan, the requirements, you need a general information map, site context map, existing resource and site analysis, and a conceptual improvements plan, traffic studies. Depending on your project, we have a list of items that drive if you have to have a traffic study or not. Specifically, they're more in-depth items for the general information map, site context map, within the City of Fairview Subdivision Regulations 5-102. A conceptual plan has to be have action taken on it by the Planning Commission per the subdivision regulations. So a lot of items have been coming in as just residential development plans or any other submission. And so with a concept plan with our document saying that it needs to have action taken on it by the Planning Commission, we will be utilizing that, and the Planning Commission will be taking action on conceptual plans. The blue line across the bottom, you have pre-application meeting, conceptual plan application, and then staff review, and then Planning Commission will take action on that. Master development plans. When they are used, master development plans, you have a planned overlay district development. Some of you know that as a PUD. In Fairview, we call that a POD currently. We are working on an update to our zoning ordinance that will be completed in 18 to 20 months. And likely that terminology changes. Multifamily developments require a master development plan. manufactured home park developments, and attached dwelling developments. Again, those all start with a pre-application meeting, a master development plan application, staff review, planning commission, and then in the case of a planned overlay district, those will also go to the Board of Commission. The required documents are the copy of the current deed, written consent from owner of record, letter of availability from the Water Authority of Dixon County. That is a big piece. I know that all of you who are in our development community, working with Michael Rogers, his authority is vast, and you have, you're kind of at their will. The city of Fairview has no authorization to guarantee you water or sewer or anything else for your property. Traffic study or roadway capacity adjustment, and then your master development plan. The next slide is going to be very hard to read. This will be a printout that if you would like, we can get for you. But these are the master development plan checklist items. These are currently displayed on IDT within the application for a master development plan. We pretty much want you to show everything. That's kind of the gist of it. There are a whole lot of items: location and size of areas to be utilized for sanitary sewer treatment. That's a big piece, especially with capacity with Water Authority. Where are you going to put a decentralized wastewater treatment area? That is a large concern to make sure that we have proper soils and everything for that. A development plan, when is that required? You have a development plan would follow a master development plan for substantial compliance. We have had several of those recently. Richville Phase 5, that's a planned overlay. Each one of their phases that they submit comes in, and your development plan has to be within substantial compliance. There's a list of substantial compliance factors within that are listed in the subdivision regulations. No, within the zoning ordinance, Article 10-205.3. And then for a residential development with a straight zone, and then a commercial site development plan. The development plans begin with the pre-application meeting, your application, staff review, and then those go only to the Planning Commission for their review of either substantial compliance or for their approval. The required documents, you need a legal description of the property, copy of the current deed, traffic study or roadway capacity adjustment depending on the project, water resource analysis, especially if you're utilizing non-conventional wastewater treatment. Your soil will need to be identified in there. And then a will serve letter from the Water Authority of Dixon County. And then, of course, your residential development plan. The checklist for that is the general information map, proposed improvements plan, all of the plan notations that are listed within City of Fairview Subdivision Regulations 5-103.3. A design certification, which is a letter from the design engineer stating that everything is either designed to our specifications, or if you are seeking any variances, you can have those listed within your design certification. A proposed open space and management plan and a proposed community association document. Commercial site development plan has required documents of same thing, legal description, copy of current deed, traffic study, water resource analysis, a will serve letter, and the commercial site development. The checklist for that is a little longer for the commercial folks. I know we're probably 85% residential in Fairview, but we do have a few commercial businesses that are popping up. And I would expect as y'all continued to build rooftops, that we have a few more. And so we have a few requirements for this checklist of show and label rights of way and easements, show all existing and proposed buildings, all existing proposed utility connections, then show construction details and applicable construction notes, setbacks labeled in feet and inches from all property lines, and then show exterior elevations. The exterior elevations falls within our design review manual for commercial, industrial, multifamily. We do have a 70% brick requirement for commercial, commercial and multifamily, and then we have a different exterior requirement for industrial. So those are critical. That is an exception to the design review manual that you can ask the Planning Commission to look at for your particular project. And then construction plans. Once you get your approved project from the Planning Commission or the Board of Commissioners, we fall into construction plans. This is its own individual application on IDT. Our city engineer, Will and Kevin, reference them as city engineer. Curtis, not Kevin. And your construction plan application comes in for our staff review. Our city engineer reviews the construction plans for compliance, and then you will be issued a stamped set of drawings from the city with a date of our approval on them. If there is ever any alteration to that set, it needs to be resubmitted to our office, evaluated, and you'll receive a new stamped set. Any alterations to a plan set needs to have the full plan set come back into our office with clouded revision changes, and then you'll get a new full stamp set. And then a variance request. This is also its own individual application on IDT. If you go into the application categories on the first page, you have to click on Board of Zoning Appeals, and then you can get a variance request application. We require that you submit all variances in one letter, identify the reason for requesting the variance, and then identify the specific regulation that you're requesting a variance for. Variance request applications, once it is submitted, again, goes through our staff review. Our Board of Zoning Appeals does not have a regular meeting set, so we would have to get a meeting set. They meet on an as-needed basis. We do not have variance requests every month, so if you have one, we have to work within our schedule a little bit to get a meeting set. Then we get into pre-construction. Curtis, you want to talk a little bit about what you need for pre-construction?
I think before we go to pre-construction, is there any, do you want to answer questions or wait till the end?
Wait till
Okay. So I'll go with pre-construction. So once we have an approved set of construction plans, we'll do a probable cost of estimation. And that's usually, that's provided by the applicant for what, their opinion is of the cost of construction. I will review it or will, and then we put the bond amounts in the site development agreement, which then goes to the Board of Commissioners. And then those bond amounts are essentially approved by the site development agreement. And that is the next bullet point there. So, you know, before the pre-con occurs, what we need, cost of estimation, development agreement, and then we have our pre-con meeting. So here's an example of the reclamation bond. And the reclamation bond is only required, it's required for both residential and commercial. But specifically, we just want to state that reclamation, you only need a reclamation for commercial. That there is no performance bond for commercial properties, if that makes any sense. Again, just this is the performance bond, a little bit more in depth. Reclamation is more so just for, you know, reclaiming the site. Performance is drainage infrastructure, roads, curbs, sidewalks, anything within the right-of-way, including, you know, anything within drainage easements such as detention ponds, culverts, ditching, things of that nature. And here's an example of the site or subdivision development agreement. Obviously, there's differences between commercial and residential. Again, you can kind of see on the left-hand side is an example for Westway 2, which is 80 units. So I believe it's apartments. And so it only requires a reclamation bond. And if you look on the right, you know, we have a subdivision development agreement for Brush Creek. They require a reclamation and performance bond. Now, when are they required is probably a good question. Is it already in the slide? Okay, gotcha. So here's our pre-construction meeting template form. Again, this is a great tool for us as a staff to kind of have really good record keeping for any future staff, or if any future documents are needed. Again, this is just a tool we use to track everything, make sure everything's where it needs to be. Yeah. Go back one. What's that? Yes, so Ethan wanted me to state that we will send this template out to all of you to use as in the future. And I think just to keep the pre-construction meeting efficient, we always try to send this out a few weeks before the pre-con meeting. That way you kind of have the time to sit down and go, okay, you know, here's what I need before the pre-con meeting. Kind of gives you an idea. And you can fill out most of it and save staff a little bit of time filling it out, but yeah. Yep.
All right, questions and answers section. Anybody have any questions over any of the application types? Yes, sir. The development agreement will be signed prior to the pre-con meeting, which holds the bond amount. The agenda item for that would be a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign the development agreement. And so that would need to be done prior to the pre-construction meeting. Will, do you have any? I don't believe that there's anything in our regulatory documents that says they can't run concurrently. Correct. Keith, can you turn this mic on right here for Kevin, please?
There we go. Yeah, there's nothing in any of our regulatory requirements that say they cannot come together at the same time. Obviously, we technically can't have something rezoned that's not technically located in the, or legally located within the city limits. So there may be a situation where we just have to put a delay on the rezoning becoming effective so that we ensure that the property is fully annexed into the city first. That would be the only potential separation in terms of one being completed before the other. Obviously, we can't legally rezone something we don't have within our community. So that would be it. So yes, they could be submitted separately, but they may not both become legally effective on the same date. There may be a little bit of a time gap there.
And then with annexation in our zoning ordinance, we have every property that is brought into the city of Fairview is zoned RS 40, residential, single family, 40,000, minimum 40,000 square foot lots, unless noted otherwise, unless you're specifically requesting. So. Yes, Ms. Allison.
It's a great question. There are two applications in IDT currently. So it's a grading permit, and then we have construction plans. I think it is preferred for construction plans to be approved before applying for a grading permit. That way, when you upload those construction plans, those are the approved construction plans, and there's no discrepancy. Right, because you are the ones usually with the plans. That's also a good question. I think it's just preferable on how you guys organize, how you want to do it, right? Sorry?
On IDT, you have the option to list the contractor if you know who it's going to be during the application process. And if you list that contractor, the permit will be issued to the contractor. So if an engineering firm is submitting the application, as long as you know the contractor information, then we can issue that permit to the contractor. We would like to issue the permits directly to the contractor, not to, in your case, T Squared, and then have a different contractor out on site. That way we make sure when we go out, if we're looking for permits, they know exactly where their permit is and know how to access it. And in that case, in that specific case, if an engineering firm is submitting all of the applications and you have contractors that need access to IDT to upload post-approval documents or be able to utilize the documents that you've already uploaded on IDT, all they have to do is request permission to access that, and we can grant them permission so that whoever you would like to be able to view your project can view your project. We run into that often with especially site work, site construction, where an engineering firm has submitted and then the contractor on site wants to be able to have electronic documents and see, you know, hey, here's my city stamped approval set on an iPad, here's the permit on an iPad out in the field without having to keep track of a ton of paper. And so all they have to do is request permission, and then we can give them permission to access that. I'll repeat the question. For all of you who are wondering, this is being recorded. It will be available on the City of Fairview YouTube channel indefinitely. If you ever want to go back and watch and find out and say, hey, this is what the City of Fairview requires, or if anyone else, I know several offices, SEC, T Squared, Kimley Horn, several offices, we have 15 people who are on the invite list. I asked for 2 because we are limited in space. And so any other people in your office that would like to view this at a later date, feel free to share it with them. Yes, sir. The question is for commercial projects, the elevation requirements is the 70% brick requirement for the front elevation or all elevations. The requirement is for all elevations. And just to note, that is being evaluated within our zoning ordinance rewrite. We will be looking at potentially changing that. But as it currently stands today with our regulatory documents, 70% for all elevations. Any other questions? All right, we're going to take a short break and we will resume at 10 o'clock. Our next section of our presentation is the start of construction, what all is needed for the start of construction, and then a bunch of you will be interested during construction, final plat and subdividing, and then building permits and what's needed for building permits will be addressed in the next hour. We will take a 15-minute break and resume at 10 o'clock. Whoa, Keith. Yeah, all right. If everybody could find their seats, we will get started with our second session. We do have a couple items that Mr. Chastain will speak on. One, the variance request application.
Good morning, everybody. After we had a little bit of discussion after Ethan finished just now, we just wanted to provide a little bit of clarity. And when he talked about the variance request, and then he also talked about variances for a development plan. So we just wanted to kind of give just a distinction between those two items before we move on. And so as you see on the screen, this is a variance request that Ethan spoke about that goes to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And so in this regard, if you are looking for a variance from any type of regulation within the zoning ordinance, setback, lot size, things of that nature, that would be where you would go through this formal application process to the Board of Zoning Appeals to make that request. The other aspect that he talked about and used the word variance was for the design certification letter for a development plan. Those would be items that would be found in the subdivision regulations or the design review manual. So if you're looking for a variance from something within the subdivision regulations or the design review manual, that would be a request that is put in your design certification letter that would come to the Planning Commission for review and or approval. So we just want to make that distinction between those two items before we moved on. So if you're looking for a variance from a regulation within the zoning ordinance, that's when you go through the formal process through the Board of Zoning Appeals. If it's an item in the subdivision regulations or the design review manual, those requests would be put in that design certification letter with your development plan, and that would be considered by the Planning Commission. So we just wanted to start off with that, just make some clarification. So everybody got any questions about those particular items? Hopefully I did a Okay, so the question is, are you speaking about a variance to the Board of Zoning Appeals? Yes. So if you are going through so the question was, if you were asking for a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals, would that have to go prior to a development plan? That answer would be yes. The Board of Zoning Appeals would need to take action on whatever variance you're requesting. So you would have to go before them to ask for whatever, whether that be a setback for a specific lot, or that would be a lot size. It's going to be a little bit more maybe lot specific and not necessarily for an entire subdivision in terms of a variance request to the Board of Zoning Appeals. But yes, if you're needing some formal action by the BZA, then that would need to occur before you submitted a development plan. Because the action of a variance is something that Board of Zoning Appeals is given responsibility for, and the Planning Commission does not have that responsibility in terms of zoning requirements. So yeah, they would need to take action first. Any other questions on the two items? All right. If not, I think, Ethan, back up.
All right. So you have an approved set of plans, you've had your pre-con meeting, and now you're ready to start construction. Start of construction, do's and don'ts. Need to make sure you have all of your correct permits from the city, from the state. Specifically, we have several projects that are out here on Highway 100 or on Highway 96. TDOT has been, we've had a recent change in their supervision of our area. And so they have been pretty strict on what they are allowing and what they're not allowing with loading and offloading vehicles or equipment in the state right-of-way. Their driveway permits and keeping their roads clean. We do not own those roads, TDOT does. We get a lot of fun phone calls from them telling us that we need to make sure all the contractors that are out here are keeping all roads clean, specifically their roads. Make sure that you and your contractor who's on site have the city-approved documents. If anything changes, send it back in, have clouded revisions. We'll get you a new set of approved documents. Make sure that your contractor has the approved documents. When Curtis goes out to do inspections, we're operating off of the city-approved documents. We're not operating off of any previous document form or off of any documents that you may have in the field. Needs to be city-approved documents. And then install only the initial EPSC measures prior to getting your grading permit. Initial EPSC measures. Don't go ahead and install intermediate. Keep it just to the initial. Let us get out there and evaluate it, and then you can move forward. Don'ts. Don't perform work without a bond on file with the city, and don't change the documents without city approval.
All right, we got through the hard part. Now we're starting construction. Everyone's favorite acronym, GSERP, Grading Site Utilization and Reclamation Permit. So when is this needed? This is needed when you disturb 10,000 square feet and or greater than 5,000 increase in impermeable area. A reclamation bond shall be on file with the Planning and Codes Department. Just a little extra information. We can issue non-residential building permits and a GSERP at the same time. So that kind of avoids any delays in construction for that nature. So during construction, we got to make a connection to utility on the other side of the right-of-way. So road cuts, excavations within the city of Fairview right-of-way, so public right-of-way, you will need a right-of-way encroachment permit. All those requirements for that permit is listed in the Fairview Municipal Code. We have an application IDT specifically for this, so we as a staff review this and we're following the municipal code in that regard. Proof roll inspections. So proof rolling is required for subgrade and, subgrade and, thank you, base stone. Could not think of it. I was thinking pug mill, everything. Yes, so we require both of those to be proof rolled for the entire right-of-way. So if you got construction equipment broken down on one side, we got to get it moved. We got to get it proof rolled. So EPSC inspection, Ethan just spoke of. That's the initial inspection. So you are able to put in initial EPSC measures prior to getting a grading permit. That's silt fence, check dams, construction entrance, concrete washouts, et cetera. So. You want to speak to that? Ethan wants me to speak about inspections. So when we do the initial EPSC inspection, if we notice anything that's not on the initial EPSC plan, we'll ask you to install that as quickly as possible before issuing a grading permit. And obviously, after the permit's issued, we are there occasionally to observe and inspect. So if any silt fence or any EPSC measures are down, we'll ask those to be put up. Those are required to be put up during construction.
So once you get your grading and everything kind of moving forward, oftentimes you'll come in here for a final plat. Final plats are an application type that happens during construction. We require the copy of the deed, the availability water from Water Authority. In case anything has changed, it should not change, but in case anything changes. The final plat, proposed resource protection plan, proposed landscape plan, and at this point, you would need your finalized homeowners association documents. The checklist that's on the next slide and the more in-depth version of these items is within the City of Fairview Subdivision Regulations 5-105. And to follow the blue line at the bottom, the final plat application only goes to the Planning Commission. So you get your application, 6-week staff review, and then it goes to the Planning Commission for their approval. The final plat checklist, there is a pretty stringent list in the subdivision regulations that spells out exactly what you need, and that is what we check off of. These are several items that are in that list. Names and address of owners of land to be subdivided, vicinity map, names of adjoining property, zoning classification of all lots, map and parcel numbers of the original parcels included in the development, and then for planned overlay district developments, all additional information necessary to determine compliance with the approved controlling document, the master development plan. Prior to filing and recording a master or a final plat, a performance bond shall be on file with the city within our office. We need the original copy to be on file with us prior to the recording. And then oftentimes, because you've already improved the site with some stormwater infrastructure or a piece of the roadway network, there's an opportunity there for a bond reduction. And Curtis can speak on how you go about going out and evaluating bond reductions.
So it's really quite simple. As we spoke about it before in our first session, reclamation bonds and performance bond amounts are set in the site development agreement. And you're probably wondering, well, do I have to give the city the full performance bond amount? No. So once we get right before the recording of the final plat, you can submit a reduction request to reduce the performance bond, because obviously you've probably installed a good portion of the site already. So I'll take the probable cost of estimation that we both know, set the original bond amount. I'll go out there, inspect. If anything's missing, that will be the new bond amount. Really quite simple. And I know we save questions till the end, but I think just to make it more informal, if you have any questions about this specific topic, feel free to ask. So.
Once you record your final plat with the city, with the county, the city will need a copy of the recorded plat that goes on file in my office. We keep it so that if we ever have any questions, a concerned citizen, any other developer that's trying to see how things work in Fairview, we utilize those documents within our office. Most of you are probably here today. At this point, we may have lost some of our developer friends, and we are at our residential building permits and non-residential building permits. We have a couple documents to hand out here in just a moment. to discuss the checklist that we have created for what we evaluate our building permits based on. These specifically are for our residential building permits. Our commercial, non-residential building permits are pretty well defined. Just to give an update, the residential building permit fee with ordinance 2023-13 is in effect now. We raised our fee from $1.50 per square foot to $1.85 per square foot under roof, including storage areas accessible by permanent stairways and doorways. The revenue is to be allocated 42% to the general fund, 42% to the facilities fund, and 16% to Parks and Recreation Fund. For the citizens of Fairview, if they ever ask, if you are contributing to our parks as you're continuing to build homes and around the area, you are contributing 16% of your building permit goes directly to our park system. We're going to hand out some checklists so that everybody has them in hand. You can take them with you. You will need them. They will be available in our office for pickup, and they will be posted online shortly. So the two documents that you just received are the residential building permit plan requirements and plot plan requirements, and we will get into those in just a moment. For your submission to our office for a residential building permit, we need your receipt of payments for the Williamson County privilege tax and the Williamson County educational impact fee, a plot plan, architectural plans, structural plans, current contractor's license, work comp insurance, and then if anyone ever asks you, TCA 63-6103 gives the availability for a individual homeowner to be their own contractor on a single-family project. And so if anyone ever asks you, can I build my own house? They can be their own contractor within the state. They just have to have a notarized form saying that they are doing so. Let's go through. We'll start out with the residential building permit plan requirements. We've been asked several times from multiple people who are in this room for what our requirement is for when we are looking through building permits and the plan set and what items are we looking to address. The document that you have in front of you lays out footings, foundations, building information, framing details, smoke alarm and carbon monoxide alarms, foam plastic, mechanical system, plumbing system, and energy requirements. We are on the 2018 ICC codes. And within that, there are a few items that we will be enforcing that are within the codes. If you read through this document, at most of the line items that are there have the code section of the IRC that is referenced. Like for the first one, footing and pier locations and cross-section detail identifying depth, width, and rebar is code section R403. Throughout this, most of you are providing all these pieces in your plans. There are a few that we are seeking a little bit more information, and with that information, we can readily approve building permits. One of the biggest pieces that you will see is on the second page that you have, well, third page, but second sheet, is the building thermal envelope. An air leakage test will be required for that. We are on the 2018 IECC code, and the state has wonderfully informed us that we are utilizing the charts in the 2009 charts. So 7 air changes per hour. That can be completed by a third party or by your individual company. We will need a letter stating the air changes per hour and a photo of the blower door in the door of that house. That can be submitted with your final inspection as a document on your inspection request. Flipping through the residential building permit plan requirements, are there any items that you have any questions for? Yes. Really good question. So IDT shows 3 air changes. That will be updated to 7. And then your second part of that question was, when does this go into effect? This will go into effect any permit that is submitted after June 1st, 2024. So 3 weeks pretty much from today. The first Monday in June is June 3rd, but June 1st, 2024, if you submit a plan that does not meet the requirements that are presented today, it will be kicked back to you and ask you to submit the proper plan to meet the requirements. Along with the plot plan requirement, that's the second sheet that was handed out, that also goes into effect June 1st, 2024. Any other questions about? Yes. If your permit is currently issued, will a blower door test be required? No. It is for all permits issued after June 1st, 2024. We understand that that is a cost that you may not have calculated in the beginning. You now have a little bit of time to prepare for that moving forward. So if you're starting a house, if you submit a residential building permit June 3rd, you're looking at, 15, 20 days probably to start on that, and then your 100-day build. So you have a little bit of time there to work on financials. Yes. Yes, our third-party review will be utilizing this sheet to review all projects. Any notes that you get back from them will be directly correlating to this. Most of these items that are on here, like stair and nosing detail, guardrail details, those are common things that she has asked for from, I think, just about every single person in this room. And so those are items that we are looking for moving forward. Yes, sir. If you will wait 1 minute, Mr. Broadbent's going to come up and talk about the plot plan requirements. Any other questions about building permit requirements? Right. Just to note, we do have our inspector is here now, Mr. Tom Ponder. He joined us this morning, and so if you have any questions along the process, we're all available. You saw our organizational chart earlier. If you call everybody, just wait a second because we will get back to you. But if you called everybody in our office and didn't get an answer yet, we all sit about 8 feet apart from each other. So we will get back to you. We're just busy in the moment. But Tom is happy to help answer any questions as well, especially once we get to the inspection piece. Curtis, would you like to talk about the plot plan?
So, not going to read through the entire letter. It's there in front of you. I'll briefly go through, the minimum requirements for the plot plan. And something I failed to mention in this letter, and we'll revise it, is, we need to see locations of patios, stairs, HVAC, your necessary items that need to be protected from oncoming stormwater. So proposed pavement locations, such as driveways and sidewalks. We need to see 1 foot interval existing contours. And, I state there that it's recommended that those existing contours be the contours that would occur right before construction occurs. So, when you're tying in your proposed contours, they're tying into the existing grade. Obviously, you can use as-built information if it is available, such as a subdivision. And to speak to your question about licensed surveyor or engineer, yes, we require that the plot plan be done by a licensed surveyor or engineer. And then, of course, to follow that, 1 foot proposed contours and any necessary elevation spot shots showing key areas showing positive slope. And then lastly, just all initial and final erosion protection control measures that will be installed throughout construction. Any questions? Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I can provide you a brief response, and we could talk after if you'd like to. Essentially, currently, without these necessary requirements, engineering has no purview over review of residential, well, not none, but some, over residential building permits. So, without these items, we're unable to tell if the constructability of a lot is appropriate for the city, and especially with adjacent lots. So if you, for an instance, if you have a lot that comes in and you haven't considered the lot left and right of it, if we're talking about a subdivision, then that would be the reason. Sure. Yeah. You mind to repeat your question, because I'm going to repeat it so that they can hear it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
PUDEs.
Long question. I'm going to try to do my best.
Why would that not?
So your question was, if a construction plan is showing contours on the plot plan, and it's not deemed a critical lot, why are we providing this? And I think that goes back to the instance and Will can probably help out here, but if we have a construction plan that doesn't grade out to the lots, then this is required, but we have to have a minimum requirement for the plot plans.
The flat lots are the trouble lots. And so what can happen is if a driveway is graded to a certain degree in a flat area and the adjacent lot didn't accommodate for that driveway being graded in that area or that lot, if some builder comes in and raises the elevation of the lot by a foot or 2 foot, we need to make sure that it will jive with the lots that are around it. So that's the basis of requiring this. And I know for a fact that at least one other community in Williamson County requires it. So it's not completely out of the ordinary to require these items. And so they're getting a lot of calls and issues after move-in from citizens that could have been addressed or avoided or mitigated at this stage of a plot plan to say, hey, this driveway is low, there's no lot line swell that will intercept the runoff coming from the adjacent lot, and so you're going to have runoff or sheet flow across this entire driveway and possibly going down into their garage. So those are the types of trouble spots we're trying to avoid with requiring these plot plans.
Might have some challenges, you don't mind doing the site plan, but at what point do you hit a wall after you own this lot that, oh, wait a minute, this is not a buildable lot? Can that be determined by the county before purchase? Like, could I bring you a site plan or bring you an elevation and say, I'm planning on buying this property and building a house on it, is this going to be a problem?
Are you specifically, in this scenario, are you specifically talking about a lot that's within a subdivided neighborhood?
No.
Or a tract of land?
Tract of land.
Okay, yes, absolutely. I think the staff here would be more than willing to kind of talk to you through some of the challenges that they might see initially
Okay.
on that lot.
Good.
But yeah, absolutely.
Perfect, thank you.
One other thing that Mr. Butler had brought to my attention, and I've talked with the staff about this, we will look to implement some, I guess, slight revisions or tweaks to the plot plan requirements for large tracts. So if someone comes in and buys a 5-acre tract and wants to build one home on it, there will probably be some lesser standards unless that home's going to be directly adjacent to a property line or something along that scenario. But in general, the larger the lot is, the less detail we need because there's more room to handle some of the stormwater challenges that we're seeing on the smaller 10, 12, 15,000 square foot lots.
My other concern is with the driveway slope requirements stated is between 8 and 10%, and anything over just needs city engineer approval. 8 to 10% on some of these lots that are already pre-approved through pre-construction process is nearly unattainable. It's pretty aggressive minimum requirement there. My question is, what are the guidelines to have that approved by a city engineer? We personally, in our experience, we've had some where we have even stated it over, and it's just kicked back. So it needs 8%.
Sure. So let me answer that by backing up in the process. One of the things that I've challenged Curtis with is when we do get construction plans for subdivisions in, that the grading for those lots that is 15 feet behind the right-of-way will accommodate an 8% slope or less. And so what we would like to do is have those issues addressed prior to ever getting to a plot plan for that first 15 feet, because that's all the requirement is, correct? The first 15 feet behind the right-of-way. So anything outside of that 15 feet or beyond that, it can be whatever you guys want it to be. Am I correct in stating that, Curtis? It's 10%. Okay. Right. And that 8 and 10%, that's found in the subregs, correct? So if there are some concerns about that, express that to your planning commission members as something that you would like them to entertain evaluating some revisions to. We do, and I'll say this as a blanket statement, everything that's been presented to you today has come directly from the regulations. So if there are concerns with any of the requirements, we as a staff are limited in our authority to allow for deviations from those regulations. It is our desire to enforce those regulations. That's their jobs to the greatest extent possible. So if there are desires for change to any of these regulations, then we would encourage you to communicate those to the appropriate individuals that have the authority to change those regulations. We don't, unfortunately. So that's where we kind of stand on that. So, any other questions on plot plans or anything else for that matter? Tim, I saw you slyly. Yeah. Yeah. If you'll work with us on that, the question is again about larger tracts for single-family detached residential dwelling being built on a larger tract that may not be a part of a subdivision that has a recorded plat. Coordinate with us on that early and kind of give us an idea of, what the tax map and parcel number is. Let us take a look at it, and we can kind of evaluate those on a case-by-case basis. Yes, sir. I think I'm going to encourage everyone to reach directly out to the planning office, and they will distribute those communications internally to the right person and get those responses to you.
All right. Our non-residential building permit checklist. You need your proposed site plan, cover sheet, civil plans, life safety plans, architectural floor plans, structural design, mechanical, plumbing, fire, electrical. All electrical permits are issued by the state. We do like to see that the state has reviewed those. And then your current contractor's license, workers' comp insurance. Oftentimes, we'll see in non-residential projects that the fire alarm system will be designed at a later date. That still needs to come in post-approval, and our fire marshal reviews that document to give approval for the fire alarm design and sprinkler design. Required inspections. You start off with a initial site inspection, and those can be done either by Tom, who has been trained by Curtis, or by Curtis, or another Griggs and Maloney staff that we use, a few different folks to get out there. We try to get those done in as timely of a manner as possible. Footing inspection, slab inspection, under slab plumbing, foundation, building envelope, rough plumbing, rough mechanical and framing, insulation, water and sewer. And then to get your CO, you will need a final site inspection. We'll evaluate, make sure that everything is built per your plot plan. You have your swells, your drainage going in the correct places, and then you will have your final inspection. Your final inspection can only be completed after the state has completed their electrical inspection in a residential case. For non-residential projects, the state will need to have completed their electrical, and then the fire marshal as well will need to have completed theirs before the final will be available to be offered. We have a local fire marshal, and depending on the nature of your project, the state reviews some items and local fire marshal reviews some items, so it's dependent. We do allow some third-party inspections, specifically the footing and, yeah, if you have an engineer that, that wants to evaluate certain items, we are limited in staff. So to help your project move along, a lot of people do footing inspections, third-party engineer, and we accept those. Tom still goes out he likes to look at them when he's out there, but we accept the engineer's letter as proof that on that date and time, your footing was good. Yes, sir.
Inspection.
So the initial site inspection would be triggered by what's on your plot plan. What are your initial erosion protectors? Where's your silt fence supposed to be? Do you have your construction entrance put in place? And those are listed in the plot plan requirement for the initial site inspection items that get looked, the construction driveway into a lot or parcel, preliminary erosion prevention and settlement control, preliminary grading of the lot or parcel, and foundation has been installed or foundation corners have been marked. Those are the items that we're looking for in that initial inspection. Mr. Pater?
Page 1 of your checklist, it talks about the initial site inspection, and it says it can be requested after the following. In box 4, there says foundation has been installed. So I want to make sure, are we okay requesting inspections 1 and 2 at the same time? It's kind of a unique parameter. I just want to make sure that Tom knows what he's coming out to look at. Do we have to have 1 before we can do 2? Can we do 2 first and then do 1? How are we allowed to proceed on this?
My
Make sure
preference would be that you put your silt fence up and have your initial inspection. But if you are utilizing a third party to do your footing evaluation, then we can address it at the foundation stage. Yeah. You can request a footing and an initial site inspection at the same time, yes. We like to, that's the early, if a third-party inspection is used, does Mr. Ponder still need to come out and look? I think just to help keep our inspector and your project moving forward, it's always good to contact and say, hey, this is what we've got going on out here, so he's not just driving around and thinking, hey, they're building without coming into us. He sees the inspection side of our department. I see all the projects, so I know that you've already started or have a permit or anything, but that saves him from, hey, what are y'all doing out here? Just letting us know. And those letters can be submitted with the footing inspection on IDT, so we get that document from the engineer that says, hey, the footing was good. Inspection requirements. Address must be clearly marked on the site. Full set of construction documents, the permit plan requirements, what you turn in for that, you need to have a copy on site. For those of you who have utilized IDT in the field, it is not the most user-friendly program on a mobile device or on an iPad when it comes to looking through documents. To be quite frank, currently we have one inspector. We have quite a few homes going up and quite a few projects going on within the city. I need him to be able to have the documents on site. It also helps your contractors while they're out there. I know sometimes documents sprout legs and run, but we need to have documents on site. Any alterations or fixes that must have proper documentation on site from the manufacturer. When I put this in here, my mind was thinking specifically trusses. We see a lot of houses built with trusses. Trusses get repaired, I understand that, but if there are any repairs or alternate methods of connection, and the manufacturer has signed off on it, I love being able to take your word for it, but I need the manufacturer to say, yes, it's engineered to be able to do that. Yes, they can be. Is it okay to attach the manufacturer's information, the fix, to the truss? Yes, it can be attached and affixed to the truss. But we need that documentation on site. I don't need Tom saying, hey, there's a broken truss, you repaired it, and we don't have any documentation that if that repair, there's typically a nailing pattern and several other items that come with that. He doesn't know if that has been repaired properly. We are not the manufacturer. We are there to ensure that it's been repaired properly. Failure to meet these inspection requirements will result in a failed inspection. Just to note, the address, once you have windows in, please just put it in a window. Some folks have some signs that are out front that have been run over by 30 dump trucks that have come in and out, and a porta potty and whatever else. Once you have windows, please put your address in a window. Yeah. And that's not only for our department, that is also for fire and life safety, to be able to access if you have an emergency on site or one of your projects is burning down, they need that physical address to be able to get out to you and help you out. Inspection results currently, Tom is resulting projects as he goes out and looks at them. That will be changing. Inspection results will all be issued between 3 and 3:30 p.m. each day. All failed inspections will include Tom's notes from his inspection, the specific code from the IRC or ICC that you have failed for, and pictures of the issue. Those will be in the inspection report, and Tom and I will be going through those each day. If you have any concerns, please reach out to Tom or myself. Yes. That will go into effect June 1st, 2024. All right, we have about 8 minutes, and we're going to take a little break. But first, if anyone has any other questions, we're happy to answer them. Mr. Byer.
You can get it released as soon as you want to get a performance bond. So the performance bond replaces the reclamation bond.
Yes, Mac. What is our current allowed time of calling inspections to the inspection? Right now, Mr. Ponder over the last 30 days has done about 30 inspections a day. And currently, we're seeing about a 48-hour turnaround between calling in an inspection or calling in an inspection and Mr. Ponder being on your site doing the inspection. You can request an inspection at any time, and within that inspection selection, it's not super clear in IDT, but it has a date field, and whatever date you put in there, that is the date that he will be out to inspect. If you put tomorrow, which is the automatic fill, we have a ton of people who just say, hey, I need an inspection, leave the date for tomorrow. I cannot guarantee that you'll get that inspection tomorrow. But if you're, you know your framer's gonna be done on Tuesday, and you know that a week in advance, or 3 or 4 days in advance, you can put an inspection in for Wednesday. And if it's planned in there, then I know, hey, that inspection came in first. We're gonna throw that in there. Mr. Pater. At this point, I would only like footings. Mr. Ponder stated if you have a broken truss or a framing issue that you would like an engineer to evaluate, you can submit that as well, but I would still, Mr. Ponder needs to come out and do the inspection. Mr. Manger? Will footing inspections get any priority over other inspections due to the critical nature of being able to pour concrete with weather? Is that your question? We can address that internally. That is a very good point. And we try to get footings as quickly as possible because we do know of that. Most everyone who's currently building in Fairview is utilizing a third party. There are only 2 or 3 builders that are not utilizing third-party inspection for footings currently. So the ones that we see come in, we're trying to get to as quick as possible. Any other questions? All right, we'll take a short 5-minute break and we will reconvene at 11 o'clock. Our next session is project closeout, and then we'll have an IDT. All right, we are going to begin our last session that I have to present today.
Real quick before Ethan gets started, the statement I made earlier about, the regulations that are in place is what we enforce. As most of you know, the regulations in place have some room for interpretation. In some instances, a lot of room for interpretation. So we are not too prideful to entertain different interpretations if there's something specific that you're having an issue with. So if you do, bring that to our attention, obviously in a professional, respectful way, and we can sit down and take a look at it and see if there's room for a different interpretation. So just wanted to make that stated, that if you do feel like there's something that is being misapplied in any capacity, let us know. We're not here to be enforcers of all things regulatory documents, if there is room for interpretation. So just wanted to make that statement.
All right, we get a lot of questions in our office, specifically about where to find your certificate of occupancy, especially for the folks who are trying to close on a house within the 24 to 48 hours following the final. Within your IDT portal, you are issued your certificate of occupancy for your building permit. The person who originally submitted the application receives an email with that attached certificate of occupancy, and it is also listed as a document within the documents. You can see here on the screen a PDF there at the bottom, so you can always have that indefinitely to go back and print if you ever need a certificate of occupancy for any reason.
So this is obviously project closed, going from a performance bond to maintenance bond. So as it states in the subregs, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but essentially, the maintenance bond, I'm trying to make sure I get this right, equal to 10% of the estimated original cost of such improvements. So if your performance bond was 1 million, the maintenance bond will be 100,000. And that's for obviously subdivisions, residential subdivisions, anything commercial. Obviously, you don't have a performance bond, you just have a reclamation bond. So you can get that released essentially after your grading is complete. Looks like I'm going to stall for a couple minutes. Don't know any good jokes. I know this is a lot of dry material, so thank you guys for listening to us talk all day. Appreciate you. Any questions about these 3 items? And I guess I should speak on acceptance of infrastructure. That is something we have a couple of things to fix first, but essentially the acceptance of infrastructure occurs after the maintenance bond is released, to our knowledge. I know there's a bit of conflicting language in other places, and we're still trying to decipher all that. But essentially, you know, we're accepting the infrastructure as a city, we're taking over the right-of-way, anything within the right-of-way, things of that nature.
All right, we need a few moments for tech setup to get our IDT presentation set up together. We will have a Q&A session for anything that we have discussed throughout this morning. Before we have that, I would like to thank Mayor Lisa Anderson for being here, Commissioner and Vice Mayor Brandon Butler, Commissioner McDonald for being here this morning. Commissioner Stuart Johnson was also here this morning. I'd like to thank Ms. Patty Carroll, our Economic Development Officer, for assisting in getting everything set up. I'd like to thank Nashville Lumber for providing coffee and donuts this morning, and our city manager, Tom Daugherty, for helping everything go smooth that he did. Also want to thank our Griggs and Maloney staff for coming out and helping me every day, but specifically trying to help better the city of Fairview. So with that, I'll open up any questions that you have for Will, Curtis, Kevin, or myself. We are an open book. The question is, how long until a CO is issued after the final inspection? If you passed your final inspection at between 3 and 3 p.m. that day, I will be reviewing the finals within our department, and a CO will be issued within 24 hours. If you need something faster than 24 hours, please reach out. There are cases where you're trying to get, a closing at 8 a.m. the next morning, and we close at 4:30 in the afternoon. So you have about an hour window there to reach out and make sure that you get your documents that you need. Mr. Pater? We currently have covered, goodness, backup plan if Mr. Ponder is out sick on vacation, who performs our inspections. If Mr. Ponder is planning to miss more than one day, we utilize George King, who is a inspector with Williamson County, and he operates on a part-time basis with the city. He performs inspections after 4 p.m., and he will come out and do inspections that we have on the schedule for him to do. In the time being, in the future, we are looking to expand our department, add another inspector, and that would likely eliminate the need for Mr. King to be on our payroll. In how are builders notified if after-hours inspections will occur? In the cases of sickness and in health, those are a little bit unplanned, but in planned absences, all builders will be notified from our office of, hey, inspections on this date. We now have a complete list of everyone who got an invite to this, so we have a list of builders, and that will go out to that builder list. And so that list was derived from the people who have submitted projects in the last 3 years on IDT. So everyone will get the same email of Mr. Ponder will be out. It'll be after hours inspections on X date.
What is your current plan process?
What is the process for third-party inspections after October? Correct. We will evaluate that, and that information will be coming shortly. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it does. Oh, does the blower door test have to be performed if you use foam insulation? Yes, it does. Yes. What is the requirement for as-built for commercial site plans or residential developments? Curtis, would you like to speak to that?
That is something I don't have readily available. I'd have to pull it up and send that to you. But it is located in multiple documents, zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, and I believe there's actually information in the stormwater ordinance as well for as-built requirements for different types of projects. So we can get together after the meeting and I can. I try to get to those as soon as possible because I know that holds up a couple items. We don't have a specific review time. We actually don't have a IDT submittal for as-built, but I believe we want to add that in the future. That way we can put a timeline on it and it also be, on the server for anytime we need to go back to it. I don't know the answer to that question. Looks like Will wants to mention something about as-built.
I can't speak for Michael at WADC. I would assume they have, I know they have inspectors on site when infrastructure's going in. I do not know if they have as-built requirements for subdivisions prior to signing final plats. For a subdivision, the as-built would need to be submitted with the final plat application so that we can evaluate what the performance bond amount would need to be appropriately. So when that performance bond, so the performance bond amount is initially established as a development agreement. That's for the entire installation of the infrastructure. When final plat is being submitted, it is assumed that the developer desires not to file a performance bond for all the infrastructure because they've most likely installed most, if not all of it, except final topping. So as a part of establishing what that performance bond amount will actually be that needs to be posted with the city, we'll take those as-built into consideration and review those as a part of the final plat review and approval process with the planning commission. So that as-built review will run concurrently with the final plat review. As far as commercial sites go, that as-built is basically when a commercial site feels like they've reached their substantial completion or final completion, they would have an as-built commissioned by a surveyor and submit that, and that would be a part of their CO process. So we would not issue a CO until an as-built on a commercial site has been submitted. The short answer of what's required is any and all information necessary to evaluate that the installed conditions match the approved plan, whether that's a commercial site plan or a subdivision construction plans. But the focus in subdivisions is going to be the road grades, stormwater infrastructure, detention pond volumes, as well as locations and elevations, and then, of course, any ditch grading. For commercial sites, we are mostly looking at surface elevations, that the grading was done right, detention pond volumes, and stormwater infrastructure will actually flow to the detention pond, and the outlet structure on the detention pond was installed accordingly. We don't really, it's a private development, so if you ended up installing something that isn't a regulatory requirement, let's say you showed 6 foot wide sidewalk and you actually ended up going 5 foot wide sidewalk. 5 foot is the minimum regulatory requirement. We're not going to dock you on something if you chose to do something less than what was on the approved plan. If it's still in compliance with the regulatory requirement, we're probably going to let that roll. So, any other questions on as-builts? So and this is specific to commercial site plan, if you change the sidewalk width on a subdivision, that needs to be a discussion and would be a variance. Because that's going to be located in all likelihood within the public right-of-way. So that's something we need to know of and need to review and approve. On a commercial site, we would ask that as soon as you're aware of something like that, bring it to planning staff's attention and seek their guidance on a case-by-case basis on if anything is needed further on approving whatever that deviation is.
Curtis brought up a point that we wanted to make sure that we mentioned this morning is in the past in Fairview, sometimes there have been construction plans taken directly to the Planning Commission. Construction plans, as you all know, cost a significant amount of money to get a full-blown set of construction plans, and that is not our desire to have you go above and beyond and design a whole project for it to go to the Planning Commission and get shot down. Our hope is that we have laid this out plain and clear enough this morning that your development plan is not a full set of full-blown construction plans, and that your conceptual plan is not a full-blown construction plan set. There are specific items that we are looking for. Most of them fall within 4 to 7 pages, and that is what we are seeking to have the Planning Commission approve. Full-blown construction plans per our documents are approved by the city engineer, not by the Planning Commission. you developers, builders, spending that money up front just to come in and then have the planning commission potentially deny a project seems like a crazy cost that no one should ever partake in. So we have about 5 minutes until IDT joins. Any other questions? Mr. Manger. We are here to review and ensure that all of the codes are being met. We have been asked to provide a checklist for everyone who is submitting documents to the city. And we tried our best to ensure that each code is referenced in this. You may be able to accomplish some of these items, on a floor plan. You can show the smoke detector locations or different items to limit the number of pages that you would need to submit. But we are looking for all of the details. With our size of our department, we have tried to hit things on the front end to ensure that everyone knows what is going on and what the plan is moving forward. And so we're trying to hit a good plethora of items on the plan review to guarantee that once Mr. Ponder gets out there, you're successful as a builder and everything moves forward in accordance with the plan. Any other questions? All right, we have about 4 minutes and we'll begin our IDT training.
This would look from an applicant perspective, but also from a plan review perspective. What happens on the Fairview side as the application gets submitted, we start going through the approval process on our way to ending the project and potentially offering permit, et cetera, et cetera. So this is my applicant login, and when you come to the City of Fairview main portal site, this is what that will look like. Let me reduce my screen just a little bit. If you were going to come in here and submit an application, you would come right down to this particular box, submit a project, and click on the blue submit a project button. And then I believe we're going to start with the residential building permit application. And the first thing you'll want to do is simply name your project. Typically a business name or an address. I'm putting mine as a test project for obvious reasons, but you would click Save and Continue at this point to move into the application process. The first thing you're going to run into is a checklist form regarding the residential building permit. And obviously you'll want to thoroughly read through this to make sure that you have all the required documents that you're going to need and can gather those, whether that's today or in the coming days prior to continuing on with this particular application. So first thing would be a receipt of payments. And as you have each ingredient here, you'd want to go ahead and click on your checkbox next to each. So if you've got your appropriate receipt of payments, you have a proposed site plan, you have an architectural plan once you've got that. Once you've got your structural drawings and framing details, your proof of license and insurance, your grading permit, and your TCA 63-6 license requirements. And if you do need to get a little bit more information on that, there is the ability to click right here on this link. You can open that in a different link, and it gives you a little bit more documentation surrounding that license requirement. Once I have my required checklist documents and I'm ready to move forward, I would make sure all my check boxes are checked. And then I'm going to go ahead and save and continue to move on to the second form of the application. This would be a project description. So in here, obviously, a paragraph or so just describing what your project's all about. If it needs to be a little longer than that, that's fine. But just for testing purposes today, that's what I'm going to include as my project description. And then you click Save and Continue. And now we move on to our project contact form. So who's our project contact? Who's the applicant? Well, I'm going to put myself. Who's our property owner? Whoever that might be. If it's me, that's fine. I would click on myself. But right here, you have the ability to add a new contact. And it comes up with this contact form where you can put in a property owner. I'm just putting in a jalopy address, so bear with me on that one. Ethan, what's your postal code over there?
Three 37062.
Okay, 37062. All right. Anybody take this number down? It's private. Haha. Has contractor been selected? It would be a yes or no. In this case, I'm going to select yes. Is the project value less than $25,000? I'm going to say yes or no. Specify who the contractor will be. It will be the property or homeowner. And right here is where I can upload a copy of that completed TCA. And I actually did a little dummy TCA here this morning. This little PDF form. Or if you don't have a completed TCA, you can click right here. It gives you a little example of what you'll need. Should be able to contact your contractor to get that information. But I do have one. I just uploaded it. And we save and continue to move on. Now we go for site location data. So they're going to look, first of all, for a verified address. This is a dummy address. I'm sure there's a test way somewhere in the world, but right now we're using it as a dummy address. And you would click verify at the bottom to determine whether it can be verified, or you can submit this as an unverified address in this application. So I'm going to go ahead and click on submit as unverified. Has the property owner been notified of the request? Yes. Current zoning district, I'm going to put AR agriculture residential districts. But as you can see, there's a number here. Existing use, it's a single family residence. Proposed use, again, we're just adding a pool. Me. Once this information is sufficed, we move forward, submit and continue. Construction cost, whatever that is going to be, we'll put $10,000. Type of foundation. We'll do a slab. We'll do 900 square feet. Proposed use bedroom, 0. Bathrooms, 0. Yes. We'll put yes on this. Or we'll put no on this to move forward. Is the project located within the subdivision? Yes, it is. We'll put Castleberry Farms. Section 3, we'll do section 3. And we'll do lot number 100 for the 100 Testway. And then we come to our acknowledgement screen. So per Tennessee Code, annotated section 62-6-103, any homeowner wishing to hold a building permit for the construction of their own personal residence must complete an acknowledgement form and upload it with their submittal of documents. Will the homeowner be the permit holder for this project? Yes. Is the homeowner constructing a personal residence or single-family dwelling? And this is where we can access and print our TCA acknowledgement form. That'll be uploaded with our application and plans. And we simply move forward. Acknowledgements, please acknowledge the following statements. I'm not going to read all of this, but there is a disclaimer right here. Once you've read through this thoroughly and understand what is mentioned in the disclaimer, I acknowledge the above statement. Please initial. In this case, it would be CWD. And we save and we continue. So here's our full application form, project description. Obviously, it'd be a little bit more detailed than what I put on here today. Project contact information, you want to make sure that all looks good. Maybe double check your completed TCA form. Site location, make sure this looks good. Project data, make sure that looks good. And all the way down the list, your acknowledgements are fine. You've printed this and are ready to submit it. And you've signed off on the acknowledgement and disclaimer. Once you've looked over this form, everything looks good from your applicant angle. You'd go ahead and click this button at the bottom. I, acting as an agent for owner-developer organizations, submit the above application and thoroughly read through that disclaimer. And then, of course, from here we go ahead and we confirm. Here is where I can upload that additional printed copy or form. And I'm just going to upload a dummy copy of a plan here. Just a moment. Let's do that. Okay. So I've uploaded my license. This would be, in other words, my printed form filled out and uploaded. And now I save and continue and move forward. No fees are due at this time. Please confirm your submittal package by clicking the Submit for Review button. I'm ready to submit my package. I go ahead and confirm. Now my package has been submitted to the City of Fairview. You will right now be getting an email, the applicant will be getting an email that you've submitted your package to the City of Fairview, and it is now going under review for completeness. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign out and put on my plan review or site administrator login. And now from the City of Fairview side, I can go up under plan review. I can look at my overview, all reviewers. And I can see what is under intake review. Here's my recent submitted project. I will go in and take a look at this. And now what the City of Fairview is going to do is they're going to look through the documents. Okay, they've got their two forms here, what we requested. Look over this residential building checklist form. Here's their application. They're going to look through all of this and make sure that all information lines up with what the City of Fairview needs. They're also going to look at probably emails that have gone out. Here's that submittal confirmation that went out to the applicant. They're probably going to review submittal data one more time. It looks like everything is good for right this minute. So I, from the City of Fairview side, I'm going to go ahead and accept this submittal package. And what they're going to do on their side, the City of Fairview, is they're going to assign a project admin. They have a whole list here. I'm going to leave it on myself. They can change up the current zoning district to whatever is necessary. I'm going to leave it as AR residential, agriculture and residential districts. We definitely want to send out an applicant notification that your initial submittal has been accepted. And this is where they, on their side, the City of Fairview, will begin to sign out plan review. I have, Ethan, just for the moment, I have put myself in here under codes. I just want to do some testing plan review. I will remove myself once we're done here, but just for the moment. Make sure I'm selected, nobody else is. Okay. And then they would also have a review assignment go to their reviewer. I'm not going to send that right now because it's going to me. But this has now been accepted for initial intake and going into the plan review. There'll be an applicant email letting you know that submittal package has been accepted for review. It'll have the applicant name here. Thank you for submitting your project to City of Fairview. Your submittal package has been accepted for what will be the initial review. And it'll have application type, workflow, project information, and review cycle. You can check the status of your project and manage submittals by logging into the website and clicking Plan Review. It should be My Submittals, but Submittals in the navigation menu. Everything is lined up and ready to go. I will go ahead from the City of Fairview side and click Submit now. So that initial email went out to the applicant. Now a second email has gone out to the applicant letting them know that their submittal was accepted and is now going under plan review. I, being the plan reviewer, would have received an email at my desk letting them know that I have a new plan review assignment. And what I will do is go up under my name. Here is that particular project that I need to go in and do a review on. And here is that project type, workflow, jurisdiction, project number, everything that I need up here at the top. GIS is attached to it. And now I'm going to go up under my review cycle. And I, one more time, am going to now, from a plan review side, just make sure we have everything that we need. I'm going to probably look at this checklist one more time. And I'm going to review the application. And then I might even come over here and look at activity log on the project. I might look at what emails have gone out. And once again, review submittal data. And if I deem that everything on this project is what we need and as it should be at this moment in time, I'm going to go ahead and check the little green arrow next to my name, and I'm going to put my review result as approved. And I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to go ahead and approve the review. I do not want to create any additional documentation. And here is the third communication email that will now go out to the applicant. Thank you for submitting your project. This review has been approved. Project information and project link is part of that email. And any additional verbiage that the City of Fairview wants to include on this email, they can. We will go ahead and submit. So a third review approved email has now gone out to the applicant. And now from the City of Fairview side, I can come in here and I can create the permit. Once I create the residential building permit, a fourth email will go out to the applicant. So we're keeping the applicant in the loop each step of the way. Once I create this permit, a fourth email will go to the applicant letting them know that the permit is available. There'll be project link and information in there, and then they can come right here under permits as an applicant, and they can see that this permit is created, and they can actually get an access to print off the permit document. That is a look at applicant going in and submitting an application and uploading a couple of required documents, and what would happen on the Fairview side of things all the way through the plan review process to getting to this point where we're ready to now create the permit for the project. I'm not going to do that because then on the backside it creates a lot of revoking and deleting, but I would create the permit. That document would in a few minutes be ready to download and print for the applicant. They'll also get an email letting them know that the permit document is prepared. So that is how the communication sort of goes back and forth between Fairview and the applicant. They're in the loop the entire way through. I hope I didn't take too much time on this first application, but I wanted to leave some space right now just for some questions on what you've seen here right now. I know this may not make a lot of sense to a lot of people at this moment, but that is kind of the simplified process of how you'd submit an application and what happens on the City of Fairview side.
Co, can you walk through how to view issues on a PDF? The project that we have, Bowie Meadows Phase 2 prelim plat. I can give you a project number if you want to search it.
That'd be perfect. What's your project number?
129 3155.
Bowie Meadows.
If you could walk through just how you can view those issues on the PDF version.
So anytime there's issues that have been marked up on, or if there's an issue that doesn't have any markups on it, or if there's an issue where there's a document with some additional red lines or markups on it, both the city of Fairview and the applicant will be able to see this issues menu right here under the project menu. And you would go right here to view all of your open issues. You might even open all of these up and just see what we've got going on here. So first of all, let's look under planning. This initial Bowie Meadows Phase 2 pre-plat, there are 31 red lines here. And let's open up these 3 issues. And then it'll explain what the issue is, add the 10-foot MBSL, move text so that it is legible, and provide a table that lists each of the proposed open space and the size. Okay, version 2 edited by city planner. So that gives you, as an applicant, what's going on here under this particular set of issues. And then when you click on the document right here, it should bring up all of the call outs, all of the issues pertaining to this document. Might take a minute to load. But then you can scroll in and see. There we go. My internet's catching up for a minute. So you can see this particular red line, what's going on here. You can continue to scroll down and continue to see. Please forgive me. My internet's being a second behind here. But you can view any of the documents or the listing of documents, and you can see all the red lines right here. This is fully transparent for both the city of Fairview side and also the applicant themselves. So naturally, as the applicant, I would come in here and I would visit each of my issues, each of these red lines, and then I would submit additional documentation and or verbiage that would suffice the closing of each of the red lines. And again, right here, you can zoom in and zoom out. It's typically a little smoother than this, but today's not that day for me. And you can go right down here through the entire list of documents and just visit each red line item and start taking care of each red line item. And then as you're uploading specific documents, whatever each red line item calls for, or you're replying to each one of those issues. For example, if I open this up, I have the ability as the applicant to reply here. I have completed, I'm not going to do it here, but you might say I've completed this task or this issue. I've uploaded required document, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the ability right here, if it's an image file, like a JPEG or a PNG file, you can upload that right here as part of the reply to the issue. Or you can go right to your document screen and you can upload any required document or documents that you need to right here. So you have emails that are going out to the applicant at each stage of the process here. If it's not a simple, all right, you've submitted, we've gone through our plan review, everything is approved, we're ready to go, and there are some issues and there's some red lines and some call outs, this is where both the city of Fairview and the applicant will have full transparency on all issues that are marked up, and both sides can come in here and add additional replies. Every time that you come in here and take a look at your documents and you reply to one of these call outs, an email is going to be sent to that specific reviewer, and then they'll be able to have back and forth correspondence within the project with you. So if you look at it from the 300-foot view, there's constant transparency back and forth between the city of Fairview and the applicants and those others that are involved in the project.
Thank you, Co.
You're welcome.
At this time, we will open it up. We have about 6 minutes left of our day. If you have any questions for Mr. Co Douglas with IDT GeoCivics, any questions? Co, you must have done a fantastic job. So there are no questions available. If something pops up, we will be sure to reach out to you.
And I do want to put it out to the group that if you folks do happen to meet again, I'm not sure what, but if you happen to meet again and you've got some questions, and Ethan, you want to give me a call or shoot me an email, Co, can you jump on with us real quick? We've got some folks that I'd be more than happy to do that at any time with you folks. So if you meet again and have that going on, let me know. I'll dive in here with you guys.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, Co.
Have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you all for coming out today. I hope that it was informative. I think we've lost a few of our folks here since we began, but I hope that it was as informative as you needed and helped lay the ground rules. Everybody likes to play by the rules, just need to know what they are. So hopefully we laid everything out in a clear and concise format. Again, everything that was talked about today goes into effect June 1st, 2024 for any project submissions, permit submissions. After that date, we'll need to abide by the documents that have been presented today. And if you have any questions between now and then, please reach out to myself. Will and Curtis can be reached by contacting the city engineer at fairview-tn.org email account. You can also contact our department. We can forward in questions over to you. Kevin can be contacted with our city planner at fairview-tn.org email account. And then we're also located at 711 Bowie Lake Road, right next to the fire station in the Community Services Building. Feel free to come and stop by and have a chat and learn about planning and codes and engineering. Thank you all for coming today.